Hey there, and welcome. Let's talk about a word that most of us are taught to fear: debt. But what if I told you that the wealthiest people on the planet see it completely differently? For them, it's not a trap, it's a tool. And in this explainer, we're going to learn how to use debt just like they do. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds completely backward, right? No one says debt is bad, but this is the core mindset shift we're digging into today. The source for this analysis makes a bold claim. Debt itself isn't the problem. It's all about how you use it. So, how does that even work? How do you take something most people are terrified of and turn it into a powerful tool for building wealth? What's the secret sauce behind this kind of thinking? Well, it's actually simpler than you might think. We're going to completely reframe this whole concept. Instead of looking at debt as an enemy you have to defeat, we're going to start treating it like a powerful ally, one that you can learn to control and command. You know, the secret isn't some kind of complicated financial wizardry. It's actually a disciplined three-step framework that the top 1% uses. It ensures that when they take on debt, that debt works for them, not against them. And we're about to break that entire system down. And here it is. The secret code is just an acronym: PRD. It stands for Payback, Return, and Default. These three little letters are the foundation for every single smart debt decision. If you can master this, you can master debt. Payback, return, default. Think of it like a pre-flight checklist. It's something you run through before you even dream of signing on the dotted line. The crucial part is to get this sequence burned into your brain. So let's dive into the first letter and see how this all builds up. Okay, first up is P for payback. Now, this sounds super obvious, I know, but you'd be surprised how many people just kind of skip the planning phase. The rule is incredibly simple. Never, ever take on a debt without knowing exactly how you're going to pay it back. And when we say payback, we're not talking about some vague hope or a wish, like, oh, I'll figure it out later. No, we mean a concrete, calculated, honest-to-goodness plan that you map out before a single cent ever hits your account. So what does a real plan look like? Well, you've basically got two main paths. The first is cash flow based. This is where you look at your monthly income and block off a non-negotiable slice of it that's dedicated to paying down the debt. The second is asset based. Here, you identify a specific asset you own, maybe a car, a gadget, and you create a clear timeline for selling it to clear the debt. The most dangerous alternative isn't a strategy at all. It's just hope. This is what happens when you take on debt with no real plan, just hoping you can figure it out later. Let's be very clear, this is not a strategy. It's a financial gamble. If you can't map out a payback plan using either your cash flow or your assets, you should seriously hit the brakes and reconsider taking on that debt. All right, you've confirmed you can pay the debt back. Check. Now we get to the really exciting part, R for return. This is where we shift from just managing debt to making debt actively work for you. This is how you learn to turn a liability into a profit-generating machine. Let's start with a classic scenario to explain this. Imagine someone has enough cash, let's say 1 billion rupiah, to buy a house completely outright. So why on earth would they choose to get a mortgage instead, which could cost them hundreds of millions in interest over the years? It sounds crazy, doesn't it? And this right here brilliantly illustrates the concept of leverage. If they pay with cash, that billion rupiah is now gone. It's locked up in a single asset, the house. But if they use a mortgage and only put down, say, 100 million, they still have 900 million rupiah in liquid capital. That money is now free to be deployed somewhere else. It can be put to work. This is the opportunity that debt creates. So how exactly do you generate a return with that freed up money? There are two main ways. A tangible return is when you invest that 900 million in something that earns a higher percentage than what your mortgage costs in interest. But there's also an intangible return. This is where you use that cash to invest in yourself. Maybe you buy a new laptop to start a freelance design business that generates income far beyond the cost of your loan payments. So you've planned your payback. You've engineered a return. But what happens if it all goes wrong? This brings us to the final and maybe the most mature step in the framework, D for default. This is about thinking about failure before you even begin. A default is simply when you can't meet the obligations of your loan anymore. A responsible borrower doesn't just pretend this can't happen to them. They plan for it. They ask the tough question: if everything falls apart, what's the actual consequence? And what's my emergency plan? A huge part of planning for default is knowing what kind of debt you have. Is it collateralized? That means it's secured against a specific asset, like your house. If you default, you lose the house. Or is it uncollateralized? If you default on that, there's no specific asset for them to take, but they can pursue you personally, which can be far more disruptive to your life.
Now, if you are facing default, there are two primary moves you can make. The first is to try and refinance. That's basically taking out a new, cheaper loan to pay off the old, expensive one. The second option is to restructure. You systematically sell off personal assets to pay down the most damaging, high-interest debts first.
So after walking through PRD, we can really start to see debt in a completely new light. It's not a moral failing, it's just a financial instrument, one with clear rules and some really powerful potential. Think about it. Not a single major company in the world operates without some form of debt on its books. The entire global economy is literally built on a system of credit and debt. So the point is, debt itself isn't evil. It's just a lever. The only question is whether you're using it to lift yourself up or to weigh yourself down.
So here it is one more time. This is your new checklist for any future debt. Before you borrow, ask yourself these three simple questions. Do I have a payback plan? Can this debt generate a return? And what is my strategy for a potential default? If you can answer all three, then you're thinking like the 1%.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. The next time you consider taking on debt, will you see it as a burden that holds you back, or will you use this framework to turn it into a stepping stone for your future?